There were a ton of speeches expressing quite a bit of hatred toward Tucker Carlson at the Republican Jewish Coalition Leadership Summit. Now, Carlson's decision to have a conversation with and platform Nick Fuentes, along with his consistent calls to stop arming and funding Israel, essentially made him a target at this event. In fact, just take a look at this tweet or this post on X by Chris Menahan, which shows the kinds of signs that people were holding at this summit. It says, "Tucker is not MAGA." On the bottom right-hand side, you'll see Republican Congressman Randy Fine holding the sign. And we're about to show you a clip in a bit where he weighs in on Tucker Carlson and those who aren't adequately supportive of Israel. So let's get to the first speech that really caught my attention, which was radio host Mark Levin, who really does have a bone to pick with Tucker Carlson, partly because Tucker Carlson has not been quiet about how he feels about Mark Levin. So you're about to hear him refer to not just Tucker, but other conservatives as cowards because of their views on Israel. Take a look.
And I just want the anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-West crowd to understand something. You're going to have to come through me and millions of people just like me, and you're not going to make it. You think your stupid little podcast, or your stupid little subscription program, or your little TV show, or maybe you have a little radio show, is going to change the world like hell it is, not if I and everybody else have something to say about it.
Okay,
angry boomer.
Yes, but also he's just a radio show host. So like when he says you're going to have to come through me, what does that even mean?
Oh, I watched his show last night and I wanted to vomit, with all due respect. It was so aggravating.
He is not just a radio host. And let's not forget, Mark Levin was a vocal champion of, what is it? The Iraq War. And which nation did not offer American troops to go fight in that war? Israel.
Yeah.
Can I just say, Tucker Carlson is more MAGA, more America first, more patriotic than anyone on that stage.
Oh, 100%, completely. I just think it's ridiculous. We have so far gone past this point of cancel culture, I thought, at least when it comes to the right. Like, the right spent the majority of the Trump campaign mocking and laughing at the woke left.
Right.
And we're here doing exactly the same thing. And the worst part is we're actually calling Tucker and Candace and these other people the woke right. That's what people on the right in the Conservative Party are now labeling them as if to, you know, create this layer where people are like, okay, they're espousing all of these things to discredit the movement in general. That's what they're trying to make a point about Tucker, about Nick Fuentes, about Candace Owens. The way I see it is that Nick Fuentes is somebody who was relegated to the darkest corners of the internet. The fact that he has been able to amass the following that he has by going deep into the topics that he is passionate about, educating his audience each and every week. Yes, sometimes he says controversial and inappropriate things. He is an edgy commentator. However, he has more than earned his seat at the table to be able to have this much influence despite all of these forces actively working against him. And all Tucker is doing is recognizing that, as we all can. Everybody who has, you know, 2 eyes, 2 ears, we can recognize that it's okay to talk about Nick Fuentes now. And Tucker's simply offering him a seat at the table.
Well, what's interesting is that people like Mark Levin and those who are just avid supporters of Israel aren't really considering why someone like Nick Fuentes has really shot up in fame and notoriety. They think that it's because people like Tucker Carlson or Patrick Bet-David platform Nick Fuentes, but I don't think that's true at all. Nick Fuentes has a massive audience of his own. I mean, some of his live streams have hundreds of thousands of people watching live, 300,000, 400,000.
Yes.
Now, I'm saying this not because I agree with, you know, Nick Fuentes or I'm on his side or anything like that, but I do think it's worth trying to understand where his popularity comes from. And so is it because he's, you know, all these names that people like Mark Levin would, you know, say Nick Fuentes falls under? Maybe, but no. I actually think it has more to do with the fact that people are paying attention to what's happening in places like Gaza, in the West Bank. Like, young people are not watching legacy media. They're on TikTok, they're on social media, they're watching independent news. And I'm sorry, what you said earlier is totally right. Americans are good people, they're generous people, and they don't like seeing human suffering. And they don't like to see human suffering with their resources being utilized in order to carry it out.
Anna, you're totally right, spot on. They are noticing what's happening in Gaza, but more importantly, or as importantly, they're noticing what's happening within the halls of power in the United States Congress itself. And they're noticing who's buying our politicians, who has the power, who you're not allowed to criticize. And Charlie Kirk said something. The late, great Charlie Kirk, he himself said, isn't it strange how people in Israel have more power to criticize the government of Israel than I myself do? I find that a little weird.
Yeah.
Okay, you cannot fault me for quoting Charlie Kirk himself, okay?
Netanyahu, when he did the Nelk Boys podcast, and he just keeps going, why are you regulated? Why are you regulated? Like, trying to act like you're like, we're not buying this for a second, like, right? Because why are you regulated? It's like,
it's
no.
so true. It's so true. Yeah, but you're right, Lindy. And so I think the efforts to ban or censor Nick Fuentes over his views have only empowered him and have only drawn more audience members to his content. And what I can't stand is the fact that people like Mark Levin refuse to ever take a look at how they've fed into this, how their calls for censorship has fed into this. And so I'm sorry, the idea that Tucker Carlson platformed Nick Fuentes didn't need Tucker Carlson to platform him. He already had a massive platform of his own, massive audience of his own. And so I want to go to the next video because more and more Christians in America have begun questioning the notion of so-called Judeo-Christian values. And you're about to hear Mark Levin basically pinning the blame for that squarely on Tucker Carlson. Let's take a quick look at that.
To Tucker Carlson, I say, did you have a head injury? What happened to you? But you know what? Unlike other people, truly, I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't care why. I just know what you are. You platform these people, you deceive your audience, you lie to your audience, you become a full-blown, out-of-the-closet Jew hater. And if you're a Jew hater, you're a Christian hater. If you reject Judaism and Christianity, then you reject the American founding based on the Judeo-Christian values and belief system.
I do not believe that Tucker Carlson is a Jew hater by any means. He has been very critical of Israel, and someone who cares about the sanctity of life as a Christian, which Tucker Carlson purports to be in that camp, would be very uncomfortable seeing our resources being used to kill innocent people.
Yeah.
And so calling him a Jew hater is disgusting, but also saying that if you're a Jew hater, you're a Christian hater is also disgusting because he is a devout Christian.
It's so deeply offensive. And Anna, you and I were talking about it earlier. I've been wearing this necklace for 20 years, okay? I proudly wear a Christian cross everywhere I go. Faith is so deeply important to me, and I'm unashamed about it. Unabashed about it. I am a strong Christian, I always have been. It's deeply offensive to me for someone to say that I'm not Christian or that I somehow have a head injury because I dare to voice concerns about the 69,000 people who were murdered in Gaza. I think actually it's a testament to my faith that I do care. So Mark Levin, honestly, get out of here. You have no right to criticize, or I don't need your approval to be Christian. Thank you very much.
Likewise, and I mean, same when it came to the comments, neutralize Tucker.
Oh my God, that was crazy.
By Josh Hammer that were made. Even just before that, he basically assigned people who weren't fully on board with this notion of Judeo-Christian values as pagans. He essentially called us. So anybody who does not focus all of their values on the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, and instead wants to draw their wisdom and life principles from both, as Christians do. You know, the death and resurrection of Jesus is pretty important to us Christians. Go figure, right? So the people who want to draw their life wisdom from both of those are apparently pagans, according to him. And this is just before he called to actually neutralize Tucker Carlson. Shortly after that, when everybody, called out that he was obviously inciting political violence euphemistically, but still, he then went on to post that definition. Did you guys see that? He posted the definition of
He cut out number 3, though.
And he cut out the third one, which actually said that in a military context, yes, neutralize does mean to take somebody out. It's just ridiculous to see from, all over the spectrum, all these people who are waging these attacks at Tucker Carlson, but it just shows you that he's onto something,
Yeah, he is. I mean, it's not just Tucker Carlson. They're picking him because he has one of the largest audiences, but what Mark Levin is doing there, and this is what bothers me so much about it, he's using emotional blackmail. He is emotionally blackmailing Christians the same way that the BLM movement emotionally blackmailed white liberals into feeling guilty for the sins of this country. And it's because he can't win the argument on the merits.
Absolutely.
And when I see him up on that stage, I see this. I almost felt bad when I watched it, the clip. I almost felt bad for Mark Levin. So I thought, what an angry person.
Did you notice the audience wasn't very receptive?
First
to
of all,
what
like
he was
10
saying?
people. They're like, how many people are there? The audience.
It was angry
Seems like a
boomer
couple hundred.
snot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was almost like the last dying gasp of this neocon movement that cannot understand for the life of it why it is losing. It is so blinded by their obsession to do regime change wars around the world that nobody wants, to blindly put any foreign nation, not just Israel, ahead of that of the United States. And his comment about, you have a little podcast, you do this and that, it's just funny because Fox is his employer. Let me tell you something, Mark Levin. Your employer, Fox News, considers it a strategic imperative for their company to invest in podcasts and the YouTube audience. And because they know that your medium, along with your message, is dying. And you know that too on some level.
Exactly. And
That's evident by how they're buying all of these media outlets, buying TikTok.
Sorry, not sorry, but Josh Hammer, Mark Levin, Randy Fine, all of them, you are not the gatekeeper of Christianity. You don't get to tell me what I can believe and what I can say. I've been threatened. I've been threatened, and I've shown you the screenshots. I've been threatened and castigated for daring to raise questions about our abetting and funding of atrocities in Gaza. It is my duty and responsibility and privilege as an American to ask questions. Why are my tax dollars subsidizing this when we have millions of Americans in need of our help on the streets? Why is our billions of dollars going overseas?
Instead of to fixing healthcare.
Absolutely. You cannot tell me that we can't afford to give Americans healthcare when you're over there funding bombs.
Can I just also say something? I think you ladies have done a great job in defending Christianity and your beliefs. I want to actually defend just Jewish people in general, because what I really get disgusted by is how intentionally you have people like Mark Levin equating or conflating either Zionism or the war crimes of Israel with being Jewish. And that is not true. It's just not. It's so manipulative and disgusting, because there are many Jews all across the globe, including here in our own country, who are openly critical of what Israel is doing. And to conflate them to basically make it seem as though someone like Tucker Carlson is commenting on Jewish people as opposed to a nation state, as opposed to a foreign government, is just a really sick and twisted way to manipulate the narrative.
They're really good at that fancy word game, and they do the exact same thing when they equate anybody who is a Palestinian in with Hamas. Their verbiage around, it's Israel versus Hamas. Never Israel versus Palestine. Yes, Hamas is the government of Gaza, but even when it comes to the West Bank, there's a partially, somewhat civil government that is located there, that is independent of Hamas. And yet they always conflate the two.
Exactly.
And when you make a valid point about why you don't want to see these atrocities occur, they say, you're a terrorist sympathizer. You can't negotiate with terrorists. Okay, we can't even have this conversation with you. And they're able to immediately just discredit you and diminish your point with this fancy word game that they've been playing as soon as this war started.
That's
absolutely
very true.
Amy, amen. We had a guest on during our previous episode. She had the gall to say I was voicing Qatar talking points. I don't even think about Qatar. I've never had any contact with anyone from Qatar or anyone in the government or anyone from the Middle East, for that matter. How dare she? Because I decided to advocate for the United States of America? No, thank you.
And by the way, I hope you asked her when she was on this show what she thought of Israel, who's supposedly our ally, unilaterally bombing Qatar which houses the largest U.S. military base.
I'm sure she loved
it.
I'm sure she loved it. She's literally paid to defend Israel no matter what it does.
It's insane.
But let's move on to the next clip because I really want to move on to freshman Republican Congressman Randy Fine, who also attacked Tucker Carlson. And this man is just grotesque in every way, has advocated for mass starvation and slaughter of literal children in Gaza and is like unabashed about it. So here he is essentially weighing in on Tucker Carlson specifically.
But make no mistake, today, Tucker Carlson is the most dangerous anti-Semite in America. He has chosen to take on the mantle of leader of a modern-day Hitler Youth, to broadcast and feature those who celebrate the Nazis, those who call for the extermination of Israel, to defend Hamas, to even criticize President Trump for stopping Iran's nuclear ambitions. Friends, make no mistake, Tucker is not MAGA.
It's so corny. What's interesting is Josh Hammer started his article the same way, though. He said the most dangerous man in the world sat down with a confused millennial, referring to Nick.
He thinks Tucker Carlson is the most dangerous man in the world.
So here's my question. What is this like conference room, this like emergency conference room they all get summoned to, and they're like, okay, guys, how are we going to spin this? What's the verbiage that we're going to go with this time? They're like,
they do
most dangerous man in America? Everyone say aye? Okay, we're running with that. That seems to be the case, right?
Because he's dangerous, quote unquote, because he dares to tell the truth. And by the way, my evolution on Gaza has nothing to do with Tucker Carlson. It's because I have eyes that see and ears that hear. I can make decisions for ourselves. And for people like Mark Levin and what's his name, Randy Fine, to say that, oh, Tucker Carlson is basically our puppet master, that's actually an insult to our intelligence as well. Because anyone who has the eyeballs to see 69,000 and a lot of them women and children needlessly being murdered, they should feel a deep sense of revulsion. If they don't, I would inquire as to what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
You said Randy Fine advocated for mass starvation?
Yes, Randy Fine.
Someone his size?
Well,
I feel like charity.
Oh my God, I love you.
Charity starts at home.
I love you so much.
That's hilarious.
And I don't want to make any assumptions because I genuinely don't know this. Is Randy Fine Jewish? I genuinely don't know. I'm asking genuinely.
He is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I saw the yarmulke and it's just hard to tell sometimes if people are being performative or if it's
well, there is the
authentic.
performative, like, you know, visiting Israel, doing the wall thing, and being a Christian. Like, it's always really interesting to me. But yeah, Randy Fine he's actually not shy about talking about how Israel's a priority for him, even as a United States member of Congress. And Lindsey Graham, by the way, kind of falls in that category as well.
So I had such high hopes
get me
for him.
started.
I honestly had such high hopes, but Lindsey, man.
No.
Really let us down.
Don't have hopes.
The single greatest thing you could do for U.S. foreign policy is to make sure that Lindsey Graham is banned from golfing with President Trump. That he is sanctioned from golfing with President Trump.
On, yeah.
President Trump has great foreign policy instincts. Lindsey Graham comes in and it's a completely different story.
Well, he's been golfing with Lindsey Graham a lot, and you're about to understand why Caroline's making the point that she's making after you watch this clip of Lindsey Graham. Here he is at the same conference, making some threats, I think. Let's take a look.
But I just want to make it really clear, I'm in the Hitler sucks wing of the Republican Party. What is this Hitler shit? I don't know. Anyway, here's what I do know. You can sit in a basement with weird people and say weird things. It's a free country, right? But if you ever run for office as a Republican and you embrace this weird shit, we're going to beat your brains out.
So that was a veiled threat at Tucker Carlson.
It gets worse, though. He says we're killing all the right people.
At one point during his speech, he says we're killing all the right people.
And again, it's the word conflation, conflating anybody who is critical of not just Israel, but foreign money in government. Anyone who's critical, Nazi, that's their fancy word game that they can. they play.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's uneducated, how could they deny it when they're hearing on one side you have terrorist sympathizers and Nazis, and on the other side you have these American first patriots? It's not until you dig a little bit deeper beneath the surface how quickly apparent it becomes this word game that they are playing.
In fact, it's funny because Senator Graham seems to be out to lunch when it comes to the reality of young Republicans, because young Republicans have really divided themselves from older, I guess, boomer Republicans on the issue of foreign policy and on Israel in particular. And Caroline, we were talking about that a little bit, backstage. Can you weigh in on that a little bit? Because you have more experience with conservatives than I do.
Oh, yeah. I mean it. The best thing you could do for U.S. foreign policy is make sure Lindsey Graham cannot golf with President Trump, because President Trump has excellent foreign policy instincts. It's part of why he was elected. All the way back in 2015, 2016, he was the first Republican to say, I don't think we need to be involved in these endless foreign wars. Well, who bears the brunt of endless foreign wars? Who is it that goes and fights in the Middle East?
Our soldiers.
Who is it? And who are those soldiers? Are they Lindsey Graham's age?
Nope.
How old are they? They are 18. In the most recent bombing of Iran with the B-2 bombers, the base in Qatar, Al Udeid, was being manned by 4 guns operated by U.S. Marines ages 18 to 23.
Yep.
Wow.
That is who your front line is.
Yes.
That is who is sent to die in foreign regime change wars, whether it's Venezuela or the Middle East. And Lindsey Graham, he loves to get up there and act like he's a tough guy. He loves to use that tough rhetoric. We're going to knock out Tucker's lights. We're going to go bomb this. It's like he loves to feel tough. He's not tough. The people who are tough are the people who go bleed and die in our foreign wars, and America has paid way too high of a cost for that. And that is why you are seeing young Republicans wake up and say, we love our country. We don't want to go expend the best of us, the best of our young,
Caroline.
healthy adults.
And it's not just the cost in blood and treasure of which we paid too much. It's also the $1 trillion of interest that we pay every single year on our debt. And a lot of that is because of our bungled mess in the Middle East.
Yeah, I agree.
How many regime change wars do we wage there? And what are the fruits of our labor?
Right, is it better off?
It's not. There.
No, okay, I gotta weigh in on something because I don't know how people aren't beside themselves with rage over this. 9/11 fundamentally changed the course of this country, and not for the best, okay? 9/11 is what robbed younger generations of a bright future in this country because of the debt that we're in and because of the regime change wars that we fought in the Middle East in response to 9/11, okay? Yeah. Who did 9/11 again? Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda terrorists carried out 9/11. We are now supporting an Al-Qaeda terrorist who is the leader of Syria following the ouster of Bashar al-Assad. He stepped foot on U.S. soil just a few weeks ago to attend the UN General Assembly. How are we okay with this? Now we're talking about the Trump administration working with him in order to formalize certain business deals with other Middle Eastern countries, including Israel. What are we doing? How is this okay?
Yeah.
How is this okay? I'm not okay with doing, all of these friendly deals with an Al-Qaeda terrorist.
Unfortunately, there was a precedent. And again, I really tried to give the Trump administration a ton of credit. Honestly, Caroline, I have. I cannot get on board with releasing 5,000 Taliban prisoners the way that we did a couple of years ago.
Right.
That's just not a good idea in my mind. That was under Mike Pompeo, the former Secretary of State. The Taliban is our enemy. We should not be releasing them into the wild so they can commit atrocities again. And we should have nothing to do with people, the architects of 9/11.
I totally agree.
Not.
By the way, and I mean, so let me get this straight. We're currently living in this insane reality where innocent people in Gaza, including literal children, are treated as terrorists. But when it comes to an actual terrorist who was part of the terrorist group that committed 9/11, we're inviting him to U.S. soil, okay, to visit the United States.
Well, we invite Bibi Netanyahu, too.
Well, I obviously have huge issues with that. I have huge issues with that as well. But honestly, I mean, no one can deny the Al-Qaeda 9/11 connection, right?
Yeah, oh, for sure. The only thing I'll say about what's going on in Syria was that's who their people chose. And the one thing was, I am so tired of the United States going into Middle Eastern countries, now potentially maybe Venezuela, and saying, we're going to select your leader for you.
Exactly.
We are in no position to tell anybody who to put in power. Our government is currently shut down. And our leaders are willing to let military troops go without pay. They are falling down on the job because they are so old and breaking hips. We are in no position to lecture any country on who they should elect and put in power. I think that's unfortunate that that is who the Syrian people chose. He's not somebody that I agree with.
I don't know how true that is, though, because, look, the Obama administration indirectly armed al-Qaeda. So they wanted to arm the rebels when the uprising happened. And let me just say, the uprising in Syria began as organic. But then you have all these proxies come in and try to exploit it for their own purposes. Russia was involved, Turkey was involved, Israel was involved, the United States was involved.
The Middle East,
So the U.S. wanted, on behalf of Israel, to be honest, wanted the fall of Bashar al-Assad because Bashar al-Assad was allies with Iran. Okay? So basically, we start funneling weapons to the rebels. Those weapons end up in the hands of al-Qaeda. Now, an al-Qaeda terrorist is the leader of Syria. And by the way, the persecution of Bedouins, the persecution of Christians. You know, the thing about Syria, even though Bashar al-Assad was a dictator and did horrible things, I'm not erasing that, he was also secular in that he allowed the various diverse religions within Syria to be able to practice their religion, right? Now with the new al-Qaeda terrorist leader of Syria, you have the persecution of all sorts of religious and ethnic groups that don't fall in line with this extremist, you know, jihadist vision.
And it's so interesting that you mentioned that he was allowed on U.S. soil. You know who Trump tried to kick out, though? The president of Colombia.
Who's a longstanding ally, by the way.
And because he dared to criticize President Trump.
What's up, guys? Amy Dangerfield here. If you liked that video and you want to watch more like it, I need you to click over to YouTube, search up Her Take, and click subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.